Gaston County Schools continues to identify and employ methods for personalizing learning for its students across all levels of our district through blended and virtual learning options. The K-5 leadership at Gaston County Schools recently began talking about the work of engaging in a strategic planning process to work toward modernizing our K-5 learning environments for our students and staff with the purpose of creating a K-12 aligned modern school district where student-centered, personalized learning options provide students with more choice in their learning. This video sets up the why we need to change our education system to create students who can apply knowledge in new ways. Listen for evidence to support why there is a need to shift to the modern learning environment.
For all of human history, the primary focus of education has been acquiring more content knowledge. And the only way to get it is through the teacher, right? You don't have to do that anymore. Today, content is ubiquitous. It's free. It's on every internet-connected device. And it's growing exponentially and changing constantly. The world simply no longer cares how much our kids know. What the world cares about is what they can do with what they know, which is a completely different education problem.
When we were growing up, parents and teachers talked about work ethic, that you really had to want to work hard. But it turns out in the 21st century, work ethic isn't good enough. You can't just intend to work hard. You actually have to know what to do next yourself. You have to be motivated and you have to have knowledge about what is the next step I ought to be taking.
If we can compete with other countries, it's got to be in producing citizens capable of innovative thinking. Not citizens capable of industrial production, not citizens capable of assembling iPads. We're going to lose if that's what we think we're producing. The old blue-collar industrial model of education is already gone. We're already living in its wake.
So what is everyone looking for? They're looking for people who can do critical thinking and problem solving, ... in order to get an interview. Critical thinking and problem solving are really table stakes today. They assume you've got that. What everyone's really looking for are people who can not only do their job, but invent, reinvent, and re-engineer their job while they're doing it.
A recent study by the RAND Corporation found out that among the state tests that are used for accountability, only about 2% of the items on the math tests measure higher order thinking skills. 98% of the items are, can you apply an algorithm and do the procedure? The problem with that is that quite often people who can identify a particular problem format and crank out an answer, or find and guess an answer from a list of 5, which schools spend a lot of time on, cannot reason their way through a mathematical application in the real world.
We have to prepare students to be resilient, to be thinkers, to be collaborators, to be communicators. We have to prepare them in such a different way.
I think there's a sharp trade-off between what can be tested easily on a large scale and what's important in life. Think of a different universe where you're asking kids to invent a science experiment, write a creative essay, come up with an interesting historical perspective on an event they care about. Far more important challenges for a kid, far more aligned with what they need to do in the real world when they graduate. Much harder to test and very hard to say you got a 731 on this experiment and somebody else got a 627 on the experiment. So that's the existential trade-off we face in education.
Creativity cannot be taught, but it can be cured. Because to me, creativity and entrepreneurship and in the spirit to innovate, they all are human nature. We can enhance it, we can make it better, but more importantly, a lot of times we're discouraged by forcing people to do what other people think is right, to force people to find answers, not ask questions, to force people to shoot for answers very efficiently, not ask them to explore.
There's some really big questions here is, what should we be teaching? Who are our major stakeholders? So getting that consensus among all of the players, the parents, the teachers, the business community, the politicians, of this is what we want our end product to look like. This is what we want the students coming out prepared to do, not just to know. Until you get that aligned, getting tough doesn't matter, because you're getting tough on what?
I would argue that beyond the morality of this issue, it's simply a matter of self-interest for all of us. Because if we don't train and teach and really support children from all these backgrounds, they become our responsibility or our fear, the source of our fear. Because we have to teach them about what we consider most important in our society. This is not about something that would be nice to do. This is about the very essence of our future. This is about who we become as a nation.
As noted in the video, we are now at a critical juncture. This publication by Alex Gray, titled "The 10 Skills You Need to Thrive in the Fourth Industrial Revolution," identifies the new demand skills for the conceptual age, including higher order thinking, creative problem solving, and synthesizing knowledge to create new ideas. We are now having to respond to the conceptual age where the world is getting faster and personalization is part of society. And we need to think about what this means for student learning. Kids are growing up in a touchscreen generation where they demand customization and personalization in the learning process. It's how they are experiencing life. A 2017 Wired magazine article indicated that of 50 million K-12 students in the U.S., by and large, we no longer have any kids born in the 20th century, kids without any context of a world without mobile devices or an understanding of a pre-9/11 world. This really impacts the way you think about designing a modern learning environment that is going to help educate kids over the next decade. In the last 3 to 4 years, we have seen the rise in mobile access and personalization of content. Almost all parts of society have been disrupted, with the exception of public education for the most part. When you look at the rise in homeschooling, the rise in charter schools and virtual schools, and the changes in state policy where money now follows students, the proximity of our neighborhood schools no longer guarantees a customer. These changes are unfolding before our eyes, and people are seeking other options and alternatives to the status quo. We need to think differently about our product and why we exist. We have to define the strategy of learning in the economy and society in which we're in today, and what will be in the future. This visual serves as the how school districts can begin to achieve the desired change for modern learning environments. In the graphic, you can see that the traditional classroom still reflects the teacher-centered, one-size-fits-all instructional approach that was popularized in the industrial age. Gaston County schools are going to begin making the district-wide transition from traditional classrooms to modern learning environments to create the modern school district in the conceptual age. That is, new demand skills which include higher order thinking, creative problem solving, and synthesizing knowledge to create new ideas. While the modern learning environment will look different in every school, common elements come to light in the transition toward modern learning environments, which include GCS has committed to redefining success for its students through developing a unified vision for modern learning and aligning its systems to support this shift. GCS has leveraged more effective use of classroom technology as the right tool for the right time to support and enhance student learning through rigorous, relevant learning opportunities. GCS recognizes and supports the shift where learning is the constant and time is the variable, meaning that learning occurs anytime, anywhere, and educators are able to find that balance between teaching content and facilitating learning. Learning becomes the constant when districts move to a competency-based education system, where learning is at the pace of the learner, not time-bound. GCS develops opportunities for more personalization of content, where students have more control over time, place, pathway, and pace of learning to meet their learning needs. The instructional model defines the vision for a modern learning environment in Gaston County schools. It includes a focus on a learner-centered environment, rigorous curriculum, responsive instruction, and blended assessment. Building knowledge around the instructional model will be accomplished through a professional learning digital platform that consists of 6 online modules that make up 2 blended courses. Modules are made up of literacy and fluencies. A literacy is the information or content that needed to know. A fluency is the applied content to the classroom. This is where the look and feel of the classroom begins to change to the modern learning environment. Once all proficiencies have been achieved, then recognition is awarded with a module micro-certification, a course certification, and finally, our GCS Modern Teacher Badge. Identified pathways describe the appropriate modules for the different stakeholder groups. The following video will introduce you to the online Modern Teacher professional learning platform.
Welcome to the platform at modernteacher.com, where you'll find the professional learning framework and tools for the modern teacher. When you first log in, you'll land here on your district's dashboard. Below the customizable banner, you'll see your current status on your professional learning micro-certifications, and you can easily compare your progress to the average at your cohort, school, or entire district. You can check the recent activity in the news feed below and participate in discussions with the Modern Teacher National Network. The Professional Learning Framework page, here, is where you can access the interactive modules on the roles of the modern teacher that model blended and personalized learning. Each module is broken into a literacy component, which focuses on the acquisition of new knowledge and skills, and a fluency component, which emphasizes in the classroom practice, application, and personalized coaching sessions. Both the literacy and fluency components are broken into small, manageable pieces represented here as tiles, and you can easily track your progress as each tile is completed. These tiles include a range of professional learning, including interactive discussions, simulations and games, checks for understanding, and opportunities for reflection and coaching. Just like the Digital Convergence Framework, which district leaders access and collaborate on in the platform, the Professional Learning Framework provides a space for modern teachers to connect, progress, and lead the transition from traditional classrooms to modern learning environments.